Improve it. Improve it. Podcast. Hello, my beautiful peeps. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Improve It podcast. I am Erin Diehl. If we've never met, I am a recovering perfectionist, people pleaser turned felfluencer. I'm the host of this show, and I'm also the founder of the professional development company Improve It. We use improv comedy to train professionals and teams and leaders to be their highest selves through play. And that's what this show is all about. We talk to all different types of people, having them help us be our highest selves and lead us to our highest selves through play. Today's episode is no different. I have a quick housekeeping item before we get into it, because if you're here, you're loving this content, and I gotta tell you, every Wednesday on our newsletter, we send out an incredible flyer that gives you the Cliff's Notes of today's show. It is a more broken down, almost blog post like show note for you. And it's giving you the tangibles and the takeaways right to your inbox every Wednesday. Every Friday, we do what is called our Fail Friday newsletter. It's an acronym for Fails, Awakening Insights and Laughs. And we bring those to you at the end of every week. It's a great way to jumpstart the weekend. So head to it'serindiehl.com, scroll to the bottom, enter in your email, and we will get you on the list. You can also check that out into the show notes today. So let's get into it, y'all. This month on the show, we are talking all about abundance. And I want you to stop and think for just a moment about what abundance means to you. I want you to really take that in. Take a breath, breathe out. What comes to mind for you? When I think about this word abundance, I think of flowing. I think of ease. I think of giving myself the proper care to fill my own cup so I have more to give others. I think of allowing. I think of surrendering. I think of letting go. What does abundance mean to you? And have you given yourself the proper care to live a more abundant life? Today's guest is going to help us answer that question and more. Taylor Elyse Morrison turned being bad at self-care and being firmly convinced of every human's potential into a career. She's the founder of Inner Workout and the award-winning author of a book by the same name. Recently named one of Fortune 10 innovators shaping the future of health, Taylor is tired of aspirational wellness as usual. Instead, she makes well-being and personal development more accessible. You're just as likely to see Taylor facilitating a workshop at a Fortune 100 company as you are to see her talking about TikTok and body image with a high school class. Wherever she goes, Taylor's sure to use her coaching, mindfulness, and movement training to meet people where they're at and offer actionable steps towards creating a world without burnout. Now, if you clicked play on today's show, it's because you want to know how to make sure you're doing the inner work. You want more mindful and actionable steps to creating a world where burnout doesn't exist. Or maybe you have a loved one who is burned out and you want to find tangible ways to help. We're giving you all that and more. I loved this episode. I loved chatting with Taylor. Truly, so many tangible takeaways. So, she's teaching us how to keep a steady flame, not burn out, and live our lives with what I call that big wick energy. I said wick, okay? And I talk about big wick energy in my book, I See You. So if you haven't gotten it, make sure to check that out too. Without further ado, let's get to improving it with Taylor Elyse Morrison. Taylor, I am thrilled, I'll say. I'm going to use the word thrilled to invite you on the Improve It podcast today. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I am so pumped to be here.
Oh, okay. I love your vibe. You're in Chicago, my old city. And I just love, I thought you, before we hit record, just to give the audience a quick background, a trash truck went by, but I thought it was the L, and it brought me back to some memes of my Chicago days. I love that city. I have so many of the Improve It peeps I know started listening to this show, live in Chicago. So every month on the Improve It podcast, we have a theme, and the theme for this month is abundance. I want to just give you that, but I want you to set an intention for this conversation today. What one word comes to mind that you want to either get or give the audience today?
Yeah. When you said abundance, what came to mind for me is like flow. I think of nature when I think of abundance and just ecosystems and how different things flow throughout. And so I think my intention is to flow with you, to like let whatever needs to flow through me, and yeah, just be really present.
Oh my God, Taylor, yes. I love that and I love that you said flow through me, because sometimes that's what we are as leaders doing this work, light workers, if you will. We're allowing things to flow through us. We are the vessel, but we're carrying some big messages with us. So I'm so here for this conversation. When you think of abundance, is there anything that comes to mind that may have been an abundant time in your life?
Yeah. Honestly, I really would say the past couple of years have felt really abundant. I had my book come out last year. I'm in the process of launching an app. I am starting a PhD program part-time at the end of the year. So it feels really abundant, and like things that I've wanted to do for a long time are finally happening. But also abundant in I love to learn and to explore. And all of these have given me opportunities to like access resources I wouldn't have accessed before, and realize how much abundant knowledge is out there, and like see how I can be abundant in offering things to the world. So this season right now, it's felt really abundant. And I think a lot of times we use that word positively, but sometimes abundance can be a little bit overwhelming too. It's like, wow, there's so much, and it's a lot of good things, but sometimes a lot of good things still feels like a lot.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, you're doing the most. I mean, you got a book, you've got the PhD program, you've got the app. All of it is so exciting. And I hear you, because I will say this, the Improve It peeps, that's what we call our audience. I know they're lifelong learners. I'm a lifelong learner with you. I love learning, but there does come a point in our lives when sometimes we need to just strip ourselves from the noise and focus on the inner work, which leads me to the Inner Workout, which is this amazing company that you birthed. Tell us how you got this idea for Inner Workout and how it came to be.
The idea came to be, there's kind of two origin stories I can go. So first, I came to this work around self-care specifically from a moment of burnout. So I was doing what maybe a lot of listeners have done in the past. I was trying to plan my week on a Sunday night, and I had my planner, I had my laptop, and I realized that I wasn't really planning. I was panicking, and I wasn't getting anything done. And at this season in my life, I was the vice president of operations at a startup. I was doing stuff on the side. I had just gotten married. I was volunteering with multiple nonprofits. There was a lot happening. And I did something really uncharacteristic for me. I shut my laptop and I took a bath instead. And I was just like, you know what? All of this can wait until Monday morning. So that's how this work for me started, is realizing, oh, the way I built my life is unsustainable. Inner Workout as a company came to me on a yoga mat. I was going to a yoga class for a fundraiser for a friend, and I got there a little bit early. And this idea came to visit me that was like, hey, maybe there's a way that you can teach people how to build the skill of self-care. And that's how Inner Workout was born.
That is Awesome. I love it happened on a yoga mat. Yes. So I know so many people can relate to that burnout story, myself included. The Sunday scaries are a real thing. Like, it is a real thing. And I had them for a very long time. You mentioned a bath, but are there any specific self-care practices that help you cultivate this inner workout? Is there anything in your life that you do specifically? And I love asking this question. I'm like a life hacker. I love to know people's life hacks. What do you do specifically?
Absolutely. Well, I want to zoom out first and say that I mentioned that my self-care journey started with a bath, which is really ironic because so often I'm telling people that self-care is more than bubble baths.
Yeah.
So the definition that we use, the definition that I use, is that self-care is listening within and responding in the most loving way possible. I really see it not as just an item on your to-do list, and let's be honest, an item that gets pushed to the bottom of your to-do list, but I see it as an ongoing conversation that you're having with yourself. And when you start to view it that way as a conversation rather than a task, it opens up so many things to be considered self-care. So with that being said, one of the biggest things that I use, and this is kind of a shameless plug, but I lock myself out of distracting apps. The Inner Workout app allows you to do that. And I don't have a lot of willpower, especially in the morning. So what I used to do a lot of was like start scrolling and then be distracted. And yeah, I would have this sense of like always wanting more dopamine throughout the day. And so I actually lock myself out of apps from 10 p.m. until 1 p.m. And that just makes a big difference to not be able to be on Instagram or LinkedIn on my phone. I can go on my computer, but not on my phone, or TikTok, whatever is your vice of choice. So that's a big one for me. Another thing that I started doing recently is I realized that for me, I love when something's on my calendar. And as much as I want to do things like dance more or read more, I do a lot better when I have accountability. So I started taking a dance class, and I take it twice a week, and it's on my calendar, and I very rarely miss it because I have that external accountability. So that's been useful for me. And then something that I just recommend for everyone is to have some type of breathing practice that you do. So the one that I normally recommend is very simple. It's just you start sending your breath to your belly. That's using your diaphragm, what was meant to actually support you. And a lot of times we're breathing into our chest, which can mimic hyperventilation. And then once you've started doing that, sending the breath to the belly, just making your exhales longer than your inhales. With that, you activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is called your rest and digest system. So that's like an evergreen one that you can do in a meeting, you can do in traffic. That can be really helpful for people.
I was sitting here doing it as you were talking, and I feel, I don't have a backrest behind me. My back was like, and then I started breathing into my diaphragm, and it felt a little lighter. It felt a little less stiff. I love these practices, and I love that you dance. I'm a former dancer myself. I'm 41, and I danced until I was like 3 to 22. And it's one of those things that is so joyful. It just brings you so presently in the moment. So I'm so happy it's on your calendar. We'll have to talk later about where you dance in Chicago. But I will say something that I noticed that you really said was slowing down and recognizing, what do I need in this moment? We don't do that. We don't do that often enough. And most of us, I know a lot of high achievers listening to this show, are so concerned about what's next on the to-do list, then we forget about what should be on the must-do list, which is taking time to breathe, taking time for joy, taking time to remove the distractions. And I just want to be clear, the Inner Workout app exists now, right? It's in existence.
It has not publicly launched yet. It will be publicly launched by the time this comes out, but I have the secret beta version right now.
Okay. And so you're locking yourself out of these apps.
Yep.
That is what I've never heard of, an app with the ability to do that. I'm getting your app. Okay. In July, this is going to air, so it will be out by July. And I'm so excited because that dopamine dessert, as I've heard it called before, is so real. So good for you for recognizing that distractions need to be removed, that you need more joy and you need more breath in your day to day. I love that, Taylor. Yes, that's an abundant life. Okay. Now, I want to talk about misconceptions about self-care because, as you mentioned, you said self-care is more than just a bubble bath. What are some of the other misconceptions about self-care that you hear, and how do you address them?
Yeah. So there's three big ones. The first one is that self-care has to take a lot of time. And this one gets me like riled up. I hear this, whether you're a parent, whether you're just someone who has a busy career, and it gets us into all or nothing thinking. So we think, okay, the right way, because I'm guessing for the people listening on this podcast, you like want to do things the right way. We want to excel. So we decide the right way to meditate is to do it for 30 minutes, or the right way to move my body is to run a 5K. And the option is to run the 5K or meditate for 30 minutes or not do it at all. And the reality is that there are a lot of ways that we can support ourselves that just take a couple of minutes, whether it's doing the breathing that we just practiced, whether it's taking some time to journal your thoughts or to practice gratitude. There are little things that can go a long way. And when we get into this all or nothing thinking, we ignore the opportunities to use the time that we have and then miss out on opportunities to care for ourselves. So I'd say that's a big one. And speaking of abundance, like that's a scarcity mindset. When you think I can only do it this way or this way, there's only those options. It's so abundant to be like, you know what? I have 30 seconds. I can stretch really quick. I have 3 minutes. I could notice my breath. I could do something creative that fulfills me. I could send a text or a voice note to someone that I want to deepen connection with. Man, even in my body, as I'm talking about that right now, I'm like, oh yeah, there's so much abundance when you switch out of that myth.
You are wonderful. You know what? I needed this today. You know what? Sometimes you need talks at certain points in your life. I needed this today because on my to-do list every afternoon is meditate. And I think, oh, I don't even have 10 minutes to just lie down, close my eyes. Like I could send 3 emails in that time, but I'm going to do a 5-minute guided meditation today. And I'm going to take that time. And I hope everyone listening does the same because I think that misconception is so true. And then we just don't do it. And then we do ourselves a disservice and the people around us a disservice when we don't do it.
Absolutely. And I would say, like, even if you want to lower that to 1 minute, this is something that I picked up from my meditation teacher, Dr. Itzai Ivan. And he has this 1 minute meditation where the first 20 seconds, you just fix your posture. You try and get a little bit taller. The second 20 seconds, you notice your breath. And then the third 20 seconds, you do a quick body scan. In just that minute of like, okay, I'm going to fix my posture because inevitably most of us are like hunched over in some way. I'm going to fix my posture. I'm going to check in with my breath. I'm going to check in with my body. That will go a long way to bring you more into the moment.
Okay, Taylor, yes. Because when you said straighten your posture, I'm like sitting like a croissant. Okay. And I'm like, yeah, sit up, Erin. And I feel automatically better. And I love that 1 minute meditation. Will you send me that link to that? Is that a public meditation? Is that something we can access?
I don't know. I learned it through my course. If it is, if there is a public link, I will definitely get it to you. If not, I'll say it one more time for folks. 20 seconds, fix your posture. 20 seconds, check in with their breath. 20 seconds, do a quick body scan.
Love. Who are what are some of your favorite meditations to do or people to follow who could do guided meditations? Who do you love meditating with?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are a bunch of meditations in the Inner Workout app. So obviously I love doing those. I also think the Insight Timer app is amazing. It's free. There are upgraded things that go to the creators if you want to. Alex L has some great ones in there, but I also love that you can search by like, I'm feeling anxious, or you can search by time. And there's so many types of meditation. So if you're someone, especially where you're like, I don't even know if meditation is for me, I recommend Insight Timer because there's so many different types. You will find something that works for you. I would say that's probably like my number one meditation resource.
Okay.
It also has a great timer. Sorry, I'm nerding out.
I know, I'm so here for this. I'm nerding out with you because here's the wild thing. I just literally got it last week, like literally last week. And it was because I'm reading this audiobook and I was looking for a meditation by the person I was reading. And then I Googled it and it was on this app and I downloaded the app. I'm pretty sure I'm going to pay for the year subscription because I just love it. And I'm like, it's been great. I love to hear those hacks. I nerd out with you. I love this stuff because meditation truly changed my life. And clearly it's changed yours and you're helping change other people's from this. Let me talk and flip this a little bit to businesses because we have a lot of leaders listening to this call. You know, self-care, burnout, these are hot topics in corporate America right now, hot topics in the workplace, big business, small business, you name it. Everyone is concerned about burnout and mindfulness and self-care. And if they're not, they need to be. So what can or how can businesses incorporate these self-care practices to create a more abundant workplace? Is there, I've had teams say they have a meditation room at work and they're encouraged to go to the meditation room. If you don't have a meditation room, is there anything simple, cheap that leaders can do today to help make self-care a priority?
Absolutely. So there are two ways that we can think about mindfulness, especially at work and as leaders. You can think about mindfulness as an approach, and you can think about mindfulness as an activity. I love the definition of mindfulness from Jon Kabat-Zinn, which is that mindfulness is paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. It's just this very intentional paying attention in a world where so often our attention is stolen from us because we get an email or we get a notification or someone walks into our office or whatever it might be. So what we tend to do is think of mindfulness as an activity, which is great. There's so much research to support how useful it can be to do things like mindfulness meditation. And if we limit mindfulness to just an activity, what happens is we think, well, mindfulness is this thing that I can do if I have time. Like you were saying earlier, if I can carve out 10 minutes, then I could do my mindfulness meditation or whatever it might be. And the rest of my time at work, that's not about being mindful. When you start to think about mindfulness as an approach, you realize that there are choices that you can make that change the way you are interacting with the rest of your day. So things like, I'm going to choose to be with what I'm doing right now. You and I are talking right now, Erin. I'm making the choice to be here. I'm not also mentally planning what I'm going to have for lunch after this, or not mentally planning for the meeting that I have later this afternoon. I'm choosing to be present with you. That is a mindful approach that's going to change the quality of our interactions. So there are shifts that you can make like that allow you to weave mindfulness throughout your day. And that can ease the burnout, because as much as I love mindfulness activities, I see them sometimes get used as a Band-Aid. And we think, okay, well, if I just do the meditation, it's okay if I email them at 2 a.m. because they have a meditation room. So it's great. And it's like, I don't know. I'm not convinced that that's the best way to approach it.
Oh my God, I love that Band-Aid statement. So freaking true. And I'm so here for this conversation because if you look at it as an approach to life, you can be mindful at any moment. And I love that this idea of being present in the now. I actually have a bracelet and I try not to move my arms when I record because it dangles, but it says be here now. And I try to remind myself, if I could get a tattoo, that would be my tattoo. I'm terrified of needles, and I know it's just going to get saggy when I'm 80. So I'm like, I'm not having a tattoo at this moment in life. But if I could, that would be it, because that mindfulness goes a long way, not only for you as a human, but as a human on the receiving end. You feel their presence, and that mindfulness just deepens and strengthens relationships. So I love that. And I also love that leaders listening can give that gift to their teams. And we don't need a meditation room. You can just be present in the moment and also give yourself space and grace to be human and breathe and be here now and allow things to happen versus force, which also goes into that abundant mindset. I want to ask you this because you mentioned on your website that you have this app, right? You're developing this app, and we can harness technology for our well-being, but there's also some challenges with that. So how can we harness technology for our well-being? And on the flip side, what are the challenges that come with it?
Yeah. I think I'll start with the challenges because
Okay.
people listening to this are like, oh, yeah, I've got challenges. So it looks a little bit different for all of us, but it shows up in different ways. I would say that most of us have a mild tech addiction in some area of our life, whether it's you like to scroll on Instagram or you spend time on LinkedIn. I have had this for a while where I'm like, well, LinkedIn is a professional networking platform. So it doesn't count if I'm like scrolling there. I'm working. I'm not procrastinating. Or even sometimes with email, like we need to be mindful of what's coming in. And if I'm responding to every ping in the moment to the point that I can't get my work done because I'm constantly looking at whatever is new coming in, that is making me ineffective in my role. And whenever I'm talking about this, I like to offer up to people that I'm not saying this from a place of shame or blame. We have really smart people who are building technologies in a way that they want us to keep coming back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And our brains are kind of not defenseless against it, but it's hard for our brains to go up against some of the smartest people and technologies in the world. So with that in mind, it's like, okay, what can we do with it? What I recommend is just getting clear on what you want technology to help you do. Technology is constantly, there's whole, like when you get into UI and UX and dark patterns and all of these different things, there are intentional design choices that are made to nudge you in a certain direction. And kind of going back to what I was saying around mindfulness, you get to choose. Technology is something that gets to serve you. So deciding, I want this tech to help me in this way. I am using this so that I can get there. Whether that is, I'm using this so I can better communicate with my team or so that I can bring in leads or whatever it might be, so that my team is freer to do the stuff that matters because this automation is happening in the background. So it might sound silly, but naming what you want this to help you do and then realizing, okay, what's actually happening? This is what I say I want technology to do for me. What's actually happening? I'm spending 5 hours a week on LinkedIn, even though I'm only posting twice a week and making 2 comments, but somehow I'm scrolling all the time there. Or every time something gets hard at work, I find myself going to Instagram and I say it's going to be really quick and it's just 20 minutes, but just 20 minutes 20 times a week adds up to a lot of time.
And 20 minutes turns into to an hour very quickly because that is such a fascinating just commentary on that these people, the smartest people in the world, really built these apps. They designed them to distract us on purpose. They want us there. That is such a reframe. Okay, I'm so here for this. And I know you're going to tell us why technology is great. I just want to pause real quick because the intention when you go on to one of these technological apps is so important. I love that. And can I tell you something? Again, this is like, I feel like I was meant to have this conversation today, Taylor. Instagram and I have a love-hate relationship, as I'm sure most people do. And I have flipped my thinking about Instagram recently and LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn for my community, my professional network, right? Instagram has my professional network, but it also has my personal network. And so now instead of being like, I'm going to distract myself, my user thinking is I'm going to create, not consume, and I'm going to connect with my community. So it's connect and create. And when I've used that mindset, it feels completely different.
It makes total sense. And what I just heard you do, Erin, is you chose Instagram has its way that it wants you to use, which is consuming, because the more you're on, the more ads that they can serve up to you. And you said, no, 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 no. What I want to do is I want to go onto this place and I want to create and I want to connect. And you made that choice, which is a big shift that people can make, is start to make that choice. How do you want to use these things? Do you want to use these things? In another business I own, my business partner doesn't use social media. She's on LinkedIn very, very limited, but she's grown her whole business from word of mouth, from content marketing outside of social media. And it's really admirable. So I think just being honest, do I want to be in this place? What do I want to use this technology for? The next thing is being honest about the support and the accountability that you need. So you could use the inner workout app to lock yourself out. I've heard other people say, you know what? I'm going to have, actually, I'll give an example that many people know. James Clear, his assistant has his password for his social media. And she changes it every week. She gives him the password once a week. He can go on and do what he wants to. This may be out of date, but this was the case at the time. She gives him the password once a week. He can go do his thing. And then he goes back out. So your accountability could be a person. I had times where I would delete the apps. I have used all kinds of things too to change like how I'm seeing emails. So I'm not constantly. I know for some people it's so scary to not have email notifications on. I actually don't even have an email app on my phone. If I need to, I'll log in through the browser. But a lot of times you don't need to. So I would just say like experiment what happens, and also what standards can you set within your team, within your organization, so people know, okay, I will answer emails within 4 hours instead of within 2 minutes, and just see how that is. There's a lot of things that we assume people want or need from us, and then we just name a new standard. People will often accept it. Or people maybe weren't even aware. They just thought it was nice that you responded within 2 minutes, but they didn't expect it.
Oh my God. Okay. Taylor, we have so much to unpack. First of all, James Clear. What? That is wild to me, because he is such a content creator. His content is amazing. So he's having his team post this information, obviously, and then he's going on to kind of cultivate a community and connect once a week, which is a fantastic idea. Okay. And then I also love this idea that you don't have email on your phone. I got the heebie-jeebies for just a moment. It gave me a heart palpitation. But I remember very specifically, I had a very stressful job in my early 20s. And then I went into a different job, and I told myself I'm creating boundaries at this job. It's a 9 to 5. I'm not going to have email on my phone. And I didn't. And it was the best decision I ever made. Obviously, I run a business and I have email on my phone. I don't have notifications though. I have removed those, which is super helpful. But I'm going to get kind of serious about this this disconnection and this changing the password. That is actually really awesome. So very cool case study. And I love this mindset and what you've done for your own life. What do you see as a return on that? What do you feel on a day-to-day?
Yeah, I feel more present. And I'll say I'm not perfect. Like I still can log on via browser. And so there are times where I'm like checking it just as much as if it were an app on my phone. But I'd say when I'm at my best, I'm really present. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying about creating and consuming or creating and connecting versus consuming. If I am so focused on emails as they come in, I'm missing out on the things that drive the numbers in my business. And so yes, it's great if I'm able to respond to emails in a timely way. And that's also part of I have an assistant who works on my team who will make sure if I haven't responded to something, hey, Taylor, you need to respond to this. So I have that backstop of support, which other people, that might be something that you look into. But I get to do the things that move the needle in the business because I'm not worried about, oh, I need to respond to this right now. And we all have probably had that moment where you're kind of in the flow and you're like, ooh, let me just check my inbox real quick because maybe there's a resource in there from your inbox. And the next thing you know, you're spending forever responding to this thing that could have happened hours later, maybe even a day later. So I have less of that happening now.
So lovely. I love that. Okay, let's talk about the pros. What are the pros of technology for our self-care and well-being?
Yeah, I mean, we've already talked about some of them, honestly. Something like Insight Timer, for example. Like that didn't used to be possible to have some of the top meditation teachers in the world that you just have access to at any given moment. I also loved that you used the word connection. Like the other day, literally just yesterday, I was reading someone's book. So I connected with them on LinkedIn and wrote them a nice little note. Before, I would have had to scour the universe to find their email or their address. And now I can just connect with people in that way. I also would say anytime that you can use things to remind you, to automate processes, to put things in front of you, that can be such a useful form. So whether it's you have a regular monthly review or quarterly review that you want to do, both personally and professionally, have that as a recurring calendar invite. Have notifications that are set up on your phone to remind you of things. It's so simple, but so often we think about how technology can make us more efficient for our work when some of those same tools can help us find more time for the things that we love and also keep the things that are important to us top of mind. And that's why I get so excited about building the Inner Workout app, because I'm like, we spend a lot of time talking about how technology is stealing things from us. But again, we're in charge. So we can choose to make it work for us if we want to.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So when people are listening to this, let's talk about the app. They can go to the App Store on their phone, download it, and is there any type of trial? Do you just get it? How much is it? Tell us all the things.
Yeah, so it will be on the iOS App Store. It's called Inner Workout. You can also just go to our website, innerworkout.co, if you want to learn about our whole ecosystem. And there's a 7-day free trial. So you can test it out, see if lock sessions work for you. Most of the meditations are 10 minutes or less. There's daily reflections, there's mini courses. The whole idea is to help you find more time for self-care, whether you're finding that time by taking it away from the time you'd spend distracting yourself by mindlessly scrolling, or you're finding that time by doing these micro practices that you can do in 10 minutes or less.
Oh, I love it. I cannot wait. Okay, so you'll send me the link to your website. We'll put it in the show notes. Everyone, check out, get the 7-day free trial. How cool is that? I love that you're doing that. And of course, you should do a 7-day free trial and then continue to keep this app on your phone. I'm getting it. You should get it too. Taylor, is there anything else that we have not covered when it comes to self-care, self-love, and how it can lead to professional abundance?
Yeah, I think just as we've been talking, the big theme that's coming up for me in terms of abundance is to remember how much power you have in this situation, any situation. You get to decide to use the 30 minutes or the 30 seconds to take care of yourself, or to say, you know what, I can't go for a 5K run, so I'm not going to do it. You get to decide to be present with your team or to be multitasking and working on the deliverable that you have later. You get to decide how you use technology and make it work for you or not. Just when I'm talking with people, when I'm working with people one-on-one, it can feel so defeating that you aren't practicing self-care in the way that other people are, or you don't have the same resources that they do. And I just want to remind you that one of the most abundant things that you can do is to remember that you have a choice and then to make that choice. Make a small choice today.
So so good. We're going to put the links to how people can find you, how they can connect with you. Okay, there's that word again, and how they can get into flow with the inner workout, with all of your teachings. I'm so grateful that the podcast Airwaves brought us together, and I just am so happy and I feel so abundant that we got to have this conversation, because this is important work. This isn't fluff. This is real stuff. This is quality of life stuff, and it matters. Thank you, Taylor, for taking the time, and thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Erin.
You are so welcome. Improve It, peeps. Taylor is incredible. I am putting the link to her app, Inner Workout, in the show notes. Make sure you take a look, get yourself that 7-day free trial. Now, she also mentioned another app which has free resources called Insight Timer. And at the time of this show, I had just gotten myself this app as well, and I am a huge fan. So your homework is to get yourself one of those 2 mindfulness apps and give yourself a minute, 5 minutes, if you have it, 10 minutes of time for you today. Intentional time for you. If you like today's show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on iTunes. It helps us bring more amazing guests like Taylor to the show. It helps other people find us and bring more people to this community of people-loving leaders. I'm going to stop blabbing. You get back to your day now. And I want you to know I'm so proud of you for investing this time in you. As you always know, I want you to keep failing, keep improving, because this world needs that special it that only you can bring. I'll see you next time.